Hello, everybody. My name is Verma Henry, and I'm your host, as usual. And welcome to Not a UX Designer. This is a podcast for UX designers about everything UX design. Today, we're not talking about UX designers, we're talking about the product designer role. I think the most important thing that we need to answer first is what is a product designer? A product designer is a person who can have the end-to-end overseeing experience of being able to manage and facilitate the right conversations and drive the things necessary to really drive an idea to an actual product. And yeah, this person might have different roles in different companies. Sometimes it's the CEO of the company if it's a very small startup. Sometimes it is a product owner if it is in a big organization. But whatever the case might be, this person is really a product designer in my case. And I'm using the term product designer very loosely here because product designer might mean a different product and not necessarily a digital product in which I am making context of today. It could be somebody who is designing a pen, somebody who's designing a shoe, or anything of that matter really. But today I am using the context of product designer in the digital space. So this is somebody who is designing a website, a mobile app, I don't know, some sort of interface that makes people's lives easy and better, whatever UX designers do these days, right? So I think that is my definition of what a product designer. So it's basically a person who can look at the end-to-end process from idea to product and be able to deliver on aligning the business needs and the customer needs in the same space. Cool. So this is what I think. If you want to become a product designer, you should look into some of these spaces. So the first one is understand that this is not just UX design or UI design. It is a part of the bigger conversation. It is actually having the conversation of understanding what the product is, who are the different stakeholders, the players in this whole game is, who are the customers, and who are the people who serve the customers. So there is always a customer journey in UX design, but I think in this case you're looking at more of a service design blueprint and trying to deliver certain parts of that as a product owner or as a product designer. Parts of it might be digital, other parts are definitely not digital. There are human pieces which are playing roles in a lot of in the background of digital products. So if you take Uber, for example, there is an actual driver who is moving around the people, right? And yeah, in other cases and scenarios, in banking environments, there are these different actors who are moving the different parts and the different pieces to achieve the business objective at the end of the day. So understand that this is not just UX UI design, which is mainly in a lack of better words, and I hate saying this statement, a look and feel. So a lot of people just consider it a look and feel really, and not just the full experience. How does the customer engage with the business? How does the business engage with the customer? I think these are some of the basic fundamental questions anybody who is coming from the UX UI space should be asking, if they want to get into the product design space. So clearly understand that this is not just UX or UI. This is this is a bigger part of the game, guys. It is just not the pure UX UI that a lot of so-called product designers, early on junior product designers, think product design is about. It is really about aligning those business needs to the customer core needs. Cool. So number 2, networking with the right people is crucial, because this sort of like opens up the right doors. Because if you're a product manager, product owner, product designer, there is a bigger conversation that you have to understand the full context of what the product is and what the business is trying to achieve, and how to align that with the customer needs or the user needs, whatever you call that person who's using the product or service. Having the right network and the right conversations with the right people at the right times is really crucial to a successful product designer. And I say this because I think about 60% of product design role is actually not production work, but it's a strategic conversation between the right stakeholders within the project and within the market that influences the product that you're working on. So please guys, don't be just a person who sits behind the screen and talks to their screen and does online networking. You need to get out of that space. You need to speak to people. You need to have conversations with people. You need to shake hands with the right people, rub shoulders with the right people out there if you want to get into this space and learn how to speak the language. Which brings me to my third point, really, is learn to communicate and facilitate the conversations. So my point number 3 is around learning how to communicate, and this is something that myself still struggle with even today. It is a very crucial skill that I've recently realized the magnitude of being able to communicate on all levels, really. I mean, from a developer level to an executive level, there are so many things and dynamics that affect the different worlds, from a creative world and an executive level world. But learn to communicate and facilitate the conversations. So some of the early mistakes that I have made in my career as a product designer and running design sprints is that I have fell victim to the biggest, most influential person in the room pushing on their agenda onto me and not being able to facilitate the conversation to drive the optimal goal of what we're trying to achieve at the end of the day. Because I am a true believer of that design work is the perfect golden thread between the business objectives and the customer needs, and being able to facilitate those conversations and really being able to have the outcomes and achievements of joining those two ends together is really what design is about. And that is what being a true product designer is to me. So I think communication skills and facilitation skills, meeting facilitation, workshop facilitation, conversation facilitation skills are some of the most underrated skills of any designer or any human being, any professional, really, no matter what level or skill that you are in. I think learn to communicate right, learn to facilitate the conversations that you want to have to be able to succeed in anything that you do, not just in being a product designer. All right, number 4, learn the skills and the tools. Now, I always tell people that I meet and see that the internet has opened so much gateways for people to learn and access knowledge that it has made a lot of education systems irrelevant, especially in South Africa. Um, I I wouldn't recommend any college degree to go and learn about being a product designer and get a certification on being a product designer. Yes, I think you should get some level of education and knowledge in your head before you go and position yourself as any type of expert or skilled person. So I think YouTube has got a wealth of knowledge around being a product designer. I think you can actually get away with just investing a lot of time, effort, and energy in implementing the things that you learn on a daily basis and apply them into your everyday environments and practice. This is a practice, guys. Being a product designer is not a once-off thing that you can just do and move on and you have the experience. It is an ongoing practice. Every case, every situation is different, every scenario is different, every client is different, every business that you're working with and every customer to that business is different. You've got B2B businesses, you've got businesses that have got public clients. The scenarios are really like a billion if you were to think about them, and it's all about practice to be able to know what to apply when what happens. So yeah, learn the skills, learn the tools. I know a lot of people want to get into the product designer space, really come from a UX UI background, so I don't want to dive so much into what tools to use. I mean, I am a sole believer of that, some of the most basic tools that you can use: pen, paper, freaking PowerPoint, Keynote, Adobe Photoshop, Sketch. Anything that comes new really is just an addition or an improvement, innovation to the tools that we already have to make our processes faster and more efficient. But there's always a learning curve to each new tool that we're trying to put into our workflow. So try and use the tools that you already have. I mean, a lot of people hate it when I put it in this way, but I think design is, basically shapes, lines, colors, typography, and yeah, white space. So yeah, learn the tools, guys. The tools are basically whatever you need to be able to design, prototype, and be able to build a case around how you can validate the ideas that you have and build a business case around that specific idea and be able to sell it back to the rest of the team and actually have an executable plan that you can run with. So there are a lot of tools, not just design tools that you need to learn about, but also sort of like facilitation type of tools. And also I would think in my mind right now, project management type of tools, but I don't think you need to go overboard. You could go for a Trello or a Asana or it depends what environment that you're working in. If you're in a more corporate environment, you probably have other project management tools that are already in place, like your Jiras and whatever you name it. So yeah, learn the tools, and after you learn the tools, it's really a matter of just getting started and getting the experience, guys. I mean, there's if you're coming from the UX UI world, then this is a very easy part for you, to just get in there and get started and work on projects. It's all about how you present them. So in the product designer space, it's really more about the process, the outcomes, the story behind how you got to where you are right now. It's really all about the specific details of how you got to where now, right? Share your story, tell the audience and the people who are looking at your work how you got there. um, Product design is not subjective, it's not an art, it's about aligning two things, which is the business and the core customer needs. And your portfolio or your work is basically explaining how you achieve that. And that's the important part. So get started, work on a fictitious project, unpack a project that you've already worked on, and share how you managed to get from X to Y, and pivot. So yeah, get started, get the experience. You don't need a lot of portfolio pieces. 1 to 3 pieces is just perfect, and that's enough. So yeah, guys, I hope this podcast gave you some value and insights around how to get into the product design space. Now, this is just a little bit around the topic. There's definitely a lot more, so go do your research, go learn more out there around how to become a product designer. But I wanted to give you some of the things that I feel and that I have experienced in the South African context that are very crucial to you, to just get on board and become a product designer, whether you're getting into the entry level and really getting into the space, you're coming from the UX UI environment, or you just a UX designer who wants to become a product designer. I think there is a very fine line between the different professions, but I think it's about understanding that product design is the end-to-end vision, is the holistic approach, is the umbrella approach to really understanding how everything works and aligning the business needs to the customer needs. So thank you guys for listening to episode 6. If you would like to ask me any questions, you can ask me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Just use the hashtag DesignSprintSA to interact with me. You can also just look up Varima Henry. That's VARIMA Henry, HENRY. You can type that as one word. You can just look up Varima Henry. You can see my website if you haven't been there already, and you can just interact with me if you would like to find out more about how being a product designer works in the context of South Africa. I will be doing more podcasts around anything UX really, so stay tuned if you'd like to listen more to that. Please join the Design Sprint SA groups on Facebook and LinkedIn. I will be looking forward to chatting to you further there and sharing a lot more information. I also do webinars on YouTube Live, and yeah, please join that as well. Thank you, and cheers.